you are your own best filter as a business owner, because you're going to get told, do this, do that. You're not doing that right. Why are you doing that? It's like at the end of the day, you know your product, you know where you're trying to go with it. Like, just be your own best filter. So when someone tells you something, like, you can either bat it out or you can be like, oh, that's actually a pretty good idea, and I'll do something with that.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Today, we're hopping in the booth with another amazing guest. We got Nicholas Hanstad in the house. Gosh, what a tongue tire. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you are the co-owner of TH Media, which is a video production company based here in Des Moines, Iowa as well. So we are technically competitors.
You could say so. Yeah.
You're behind enemy lines now. This is all a ruse. No. Nicholas and I connected months ago, I want to say, and just kind of got connected. I'm a big, like, what would you say? Competition over or competitiveness.
Yeah.
Or compassion over competition.
Sure. Absolutely.
Words are hard today. But I just feel like that's kind of the way I've gone about this stuff, because there's so much work for everyone that even if there is other people in town that do what you do, like, there's plenty of work. So
took the words out of my mouth. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on the pod, man.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having
it.
me. Absolutely.
So I think it'll be fun to kind of talk a little bit about your journey. I know a little bit because we've met a couple times before and just had these conversations before, but I wanted to have you on the show because you guys have had a really unique journey of where you're going with your business model, kind of the retainer model, the social content angle, but then also like how you and your partner have like acquired a building, and all the different things you guys have done kind of in your entrepreneurship journey. So excited to jump into it.
Likewise.
Cool, man. So for the layman that doesn't know who you are, if you answer the phone and someone called you, how do you introduce yourself to people? Like, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. Give you the story on my name first. It depends who calls me, but I'm either Nicholas, Nick, or Olas. Growing up, my mom, obviously, parents named me Nicholas, but she would drop me off and either a friend or a coach would call me Nick, and she'd stop him and say, his name's not Nick, his name's Nicholas. So it got to the point with, I played soccer, and everybody in soccer has a nickname, and my soccer coach goes, he calls me Nick, and she says, no, his name's Nicholas. She leaves, and he's like, fine, I'm calling you Olas. And all my friends there thought it was the greatest thing, and it just stuck. So honestly, probably 75% of the people that know me today call me Olas. Even clients today call me Olas, which is a little weird, to be honest, but I answer to it. And I answer to Nick now when my mom's not around. But I'm either Nick, Nicholas, or Olas. Also, funny story about that, I won the junior club championship growing up. It was like me versus my brother, so it's not that cool, and I'm not that good at golf. But the golf pro put Nick Hanstad, and she literally takes it back to him and says, his name's Nicholas Hanstad. You need to make him a new one. So kind of crazy how serious she is about the name, but kind of a fun story as well. But,
sure.
Grew up in Johnston, went to Iowa State, and today own TH Media, which is a video production and content marketing business. And really, we just tell the story of local business through content marketing. Over time, we've kind of developed a suite of services, but our core and our catalyst has always been video. It's what we always lean back on. So.
Sure. Well, yeah, what a crazy story with the name. I know, and most Nicholases I know go by Nick like that. I think that's just kind of the cross you have to bear in this world, is everyone's going to assume that that's what you go by.
Exactly.
But there are other ones though out there that I think you're probably the only Olas that I know of.
I've never met another Olas. I get called Olaf all the time, especially by young kids. Oh, your name's Olaf. You're the snowman. I just, whatever. It's kind of fun. We'll go along with
it. You're like, nice kid. Do you need a video?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are your parents at? I need to capitalize on
Introduce me.
Right. Well, no, I think it'll be a fun conversation. And again, just the difference of the angles of how your journey is different than mine versus another person down the street. Like, there's so many journeys there. You mentioned you're a co-owner of the business.
Yep.
You guys kind of split duties, right? So you're more of the sales client management side.
Yeah.
And then what does Joe do? Like, explain the dynamic there a little bit, because I think it's unique.
Yeah, I'll kind of give you the story of how we got together. Really, Joe and I we grew up together. So we both went to Johnston High School, got more connected towards middle school because we played AAU basketball together, hung out a ton through middle school, high school, best friends. Both went to Iowa State, kind of went our separate ways, but always stayed connected. And then my junior year of college is when I was like, I'm going to be dumb and try to start a business. So I actually started a cleaning company called Man Maids with another buddy, because I was like, what is a business that I can start and just try to learn what is business? I don't know what business is. I was in business school, but honestly, I have had a lot of frustrations with my experience in school because I felt like I was just reading textbooks and never applying it. So I was like, well, I'm going to go apply this. I want to do something. And my brother was an entrepreneur, so I kind of had him to look after a little bit.
Isn't that like such a testament to it though? Like I remember my wife was doing entrepreneurship class in high school as it was college extracurricular. It was like she had a textbook that said Entrepreneurship 101. And I'm like, there is no textbook for Entrepreneurship 101. They had Entrepreneurship 101s to go start a freaking business. Like what a stupid thing to do, you know?
Exactly. So I got connected with this guy named, this class at Iowa State. It actually was in the engineering school, and it was the best business class I took at Iowa State. Jim Fay was the professor who taught it, and the class was called Entrepreneurship Product Development Engineering. So Jim was one of the founders of the Diaper Genie, which you have kids, so I'm assuming you know what the
I
Diaper
have one in
Genie
my house.
is.
He founded that?
He was one of the founders and sold it. Just what became wildly successful, has developed a ton of other products throughout it, but just a super great guy, super great professor. And I just really latched onto him because I looked at him and I'm like, you're the first professor teaching a class that has actually done something that I want to do. You know, I want to be a business owner. I want to be in business. I want to grow a company. And he did that. Mm-hmm. So he taught this class. And through that, it got me even more excited about entrepreneurship. So that's when Man-Made started. And both my friend and I realized, look, we don't actually want to own a cleaning company, but it just got our feet wet. It forced us to go door to door and try to sell cleaning services, start to work on like a message and like, how do we actually convey that to these people? And then I had an opportunity to be part of the Sci Starters program at Iowa State, which is kind of like a business incubator. They give you money basically to either, they pay you just to like, as like you can call it a salary. It's not really a salary, but to work on building a business, or you can take that capital and you can actually use it to invest back into your business. And so
do they take equity as well?
No.
I know
no
some
equity.
businesses do that, or colleges, they'll front your cash, but they get 10% in perpetuity, hoping that you're like starting the next Airbnb.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're like, please God, take this to the moon. Exactly. Like, we want our money back.
Exactly. No, they don't. But honestly, Sci Starters was my greatest experience at Iowa State. And it's such a great program. It's ran by Judy Isles, who was fantastic. But got into that program with a business called Locally that I was working on, which basically what I was doing was trying to think of all the micro farmers markets around the country, like even the Des Moines farmers market, which is honestly one of the biggest ones in the country. But then you take like the Johnston, maybe there's a Granger farmers market. I don't know. You know, there's all these people selling probably these really wonderful products, but they're not trying to mass distribute and mass produce these. But some of them might want to sell online. So the problem was my brother had a barbecue sauce called Deadeye Barbecue that he started, and he put it on Amazon and realized, well, he's never going to rank at the level that the Sweet Baby Rays are because they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars a month to rank high on Amazon. So he's like, I want a platform where it's meant for these small local businesses all around the country, and we're competing against each other, but we all have relative budgets. So it's not like one person's going to completely screw the others. So that was the premise of the platform. It was a dual-sided marketplace. Through that is how I got reconnected with Joe, because I was like, I want video. I want to tell the story of these businesses to help sell their product on our marketplace. So reconnected with Joe. He did product photos in my apartment, just to kind of get some products on the website. Through that and through Sci Starters, kind of realized, well, you know, this is a lot bigger than we probably understand what it's going to take to actually build this. So we're like, what could we do to like niche in and maybe focus on one product? So we focused on coffee. We both liked coffee, and who doesn't love coffee? It was kind of like a widely loved product. So we're like, okay, let's focus on coffee. So we started the Locally subscription box, where Joe and I literally traveled all around the Midwest. We would drive to these coffee roasters, went to Boulder, Colorado, Viroqua, Wisconsin, Tulsa, Oklahoma, a couple places in Iowa. We would spend probably 8 hours with these coffee roasters and literally just shoot content all day. And we would use that to then go tell their story. So we created like a 2 to 3 minute kind of story video for them, but then we'd pull out bite-sized pieces of content and use that to distribute on social. And so we got good at storytelling through that. And two things happened. One, it sold the coffee, never to a crazy level, but we realized story sells. So that's kind of what bought us into that. And two, we were half decent at telling stories. And Joe really knew how to tell a story through video and editing and producing. So people that were following along with our journey, family, friends, connections, were like, hey, I'm seeing you're doing that coffee thing, but like, could you make a video for me? And we're like, never really thought about it like that. So one of my, the guy that my brother was working for at the time, co-packer, Jordan Elwell, shout out Jordan Elwell. Honestly, I don't think we'd be TH Media if it wasn't for him. He approached us. He's like, I'll pay you $100 to make me a video. And Joe and I looked at each other like, what? Like,
that's $50 a piece.
Are you kidding me? Like, we can pay ourselves? Like, this is incredible. So Jordan paid us $100. It was during COVID. He was doing these food giveaways. Just a guy with a huge heart. He was giving away thousands and thousands of free product on these random food drives, and we'd go video them and kind of show the experience. So that's how we that's really the cause of the initial business inception. And then after that, the next craziest story kind of getting started was I had a friend of mine that I was doing some like probably 10 hours a week freelance work for, just data entry for him, just to like have some income coming in. Like honestly, like $500 a month, maybe. Because I was out of college, thankfully living with my mom before I got married. But he
demanding that everyone calls you Nicholas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But he was like, "Hey, can you guys do live streaming?" And I looked at Joe. I was like, "We do live streaming?" He's like, "I've never done it before, but yeah, we can do live streaming." So we figured it out. I put a bid out. I think it was like a $12,000 or $15,000 project. Didn't know what I was doing when I was bidding it, but I was just like, this looks good and seems reasonable based on my research. Got the down payment, went and bought the equipment to actually do the project.
Nice.
And then did the project. So and then from there, the rest is history. Video, quick. We were doing both businesses simultaneously, both the copy business and the video business, but it was 10 to 1 what we were doing on the marketing side versus the copy. So we ended up shutting down locally and just going all in on TH Media, which is kind of how we got everything up and going. So
what a crazy chain of events though. And I think there's so much to be understood about how you went about that with like building the train as you're going down the tracks type of thing. Like you said, we'll just say yes and figure it out later or buy the equipment later. Because so many people are like paralyzed by, well, I don't know. I haven't done it 10 times before, so I'm not going to do it now. You know, I had a client reach out about a 360 project, which we haven't done them since COVID, like 5 years ago. And I was like, well, 1 second. So I was like researching and I'm like, what the specific use case they wanted. And I'm like, oh, I can plug this into like a Matterport app. I'm like, yeah, I can figure this out. Like we don't ever do them anymore because we don't do like real estate or anything. But I was like, I can figure it out, like, kind of a fun thing. But I think there's something to be said about that though. Like what kind of like feedback or public perception did you get when you were like trying to just start a cleaning company or trying to start this coffee roasting or promotion company? Like what were some of the things that your family or friends were saying when you're trying to do this stuff?
Yeah. Great question. And I get asked that all the time. Like randomly someone will want to meet just about like a business idea that they have with Joe and I, just whether it's for marketing or just kind of just have a discussion about starting a business. And they're so worried about what their family and friends are going to think. Because honestly, you're going to get backlash. Thankfully for me, I came from a family of business owners and just entrepreneurship. So my parents were phenomenal, like so supportive, and they would do anything for us. And my brother's got some crazy stories too. Like my brother couldn't pay rent. So my mom wrote him a check for 10 grand and she just said, pay me back. Like they're just so supportive and they would do anything for us. So it makes starting a business so much easier. Joe had the same support, but I think Joe's parents, who maybe didn't come from an entrepreneurship field, were like, what are your benefits? Like, how are you going to pay health insurance? I was like, Joe, we'll figure it out, man. You're 22 years old. Like, we don't need to worry about that right now.
Sure.
Lots of friends that were supportive, but you know what's crazy to me, and I think about this all the time, is even in our coffee business, like it was a $40 product or a $50 product, like not super expensive. I think I had one friend buy that, which I get it. Like not everybody likes coffee, but the way I think about it as an entrepreneur, like if I see a friend go start a coffee business, like I'm going to be the first customer. Like I want to support the heck out of that because I know what it takes to do that. And like you're dreaming, you're taking a risk. So it's just interesting. I mean, you kind of figure out who your real friends are through it all, and who wants to be there for you and who's going to support you along the way. So you're definitely going to get backlash. But my best piece of advice I ever got, honestly, to this day, the guy's name is Danny Strable. I talked to him really early on in the days of locally, and he just was like giving me free advice for, I don't know why, I'm pretty sure I just called him out of the blue, but he told me you are your own best filter as a business owner, because you're going to get told, do this, do that. You're not doing that right. Why are you doing that? It's like at the end of the day, you know your product, you know where you're trying to go with it. Like just be your own best filter. So when someone tells you something, like you can either bat it out or you can be like, that's actually a pretty good idea and I'll do something with that. So,
and like you said, from the professor perspective, like why am I taking advice from someone that I don't want to be?
Exactly.
That's a huge thing. Like when I went to leave my bit, I worked in the agency world for 5 years before I started my company.
Yeah.
I called everyone. I wanted like everyone's input, which probably was stupid because I knew what I needed to do, but I just wanted like just to hear everyone's opinions on it. And you ask a bunch of people that took the safe route in their life, hey, should I risk everything or should I take the safe route? What do you think they're going to say?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that's why I'm pretty sure that's the evolution of why Danny told me that, was because I was like telling him like all this feedback I was getting. He's like, dude, like half those people, like, why are you listening to them? That's just dumb. And my brother was kind of the same way. Like one of the things that Iowa State with some of the entrepreneurship stuff, they try to pair you with all these mentors. It's like, I don't need 10 mentors because they're all going to tell me something different. He's like, just latch onto one or two that you just really trust. That's really all you need. And otherwise you're just going to get information thrown at you left and right and you're not going to know what to do with it.
Well, and comparing your college experience to mine, because I went to Simpson in Indianola, and similarly, I was in the business track. I was in a senior seminar where we had to build a business from scratch, got all that kind of stuff, which was kind of cool because our class built out the student-run marketing agency that would find like local businesses that couldn't pay for it, and students that needed experience and would pair them together, and they pay like a nominal, like $500 a month or something, just to keep the lights on or whatever their subscriptions are and stuff. And it's still running. Like I'm out of college like 8 years now, and it's still going, which is a testament. But so much in the entrepreneurship classes, everyone's like trying to basically like facilitate you to innovate and create this new thing that didn't exist, like Airbnb or, Uber or something like that. Like, but I feel like there's a lot to be said about entrepreneurship. You can go with a business that's been in existence for 50, 100, 200 years.
You're exactly right.
Like it's okay to, like you said, start a cleaning company, like tried and true, but like, and the benefit there is you can go and find a successful cleaning company, talk to an owner and figure out what did you do? How does this industry work? What things could I change or adapt or whatnot? Right. In that process, when you started TH Media, did you guys seek out specific niche mentors or people that were like already doing this type of stuff, or did you just kind of
honestly, we didn't really seek it out. The one that I guess there's a couple. So I talked to the guy Justin Shane, who is the one that I did some freelance work for a while, just right out of college to help make some income. I actually learned a lot from him. He's a really, really smart marketer. He did nothing video related, so I didn't really get a lot of value there, but he knew obviously when you're in the marketing space, video. So kind of learned a lot from him, kind of the way he structured things, thought about things, kind of some of the tactics that he did. But outside of that, like we kind of, I don't know if this has been good or bad for our business. I think about it a lot, but we just kind of have gone with what our clients have needed and built our business and our model around that. When we got into the retainer business because I had a client that came, Hyperion Field Club, first client, Evan Summa came to me when I was bartending because I also bartended for some part-time work. And I had worked at the club for 6 years. So I had a relationship with Evan.
So he was calling you Olas for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. He was a close friend for sure. If
you walk into Hyperion, literally, if you say Nicholas Hanstad, people are like, who, what? You say Olas, they'll know exactly who it is.
Sure.
Because that's just how everybody there calls me.
Sure.
But he came to me and he's like, hey, look what this club in Omaha is doing. He's like, you think we could do that? Because he knew I went to school for marketing. He knew Joe and I were doing some video stuff with the coffee stuff. And I went to Joe. I'm like, dude, I think there's an opportunity here. Like Evan's ready to do something like this. I can see his vision. I know exactly what he wants. So maybe we could do this. And that was kind of the inception of our retainer model. We were doing today. You can find it anywhere. Everybody doing like bite-sized content and then running your socials for you.
And what year was this? This was kind of a newer thing at that time, right?
This was 2021.
Okay.
So early 2021. So it was, people were doing it, but not really at the scale that people are doing it today because the need is much greater than it was. At least the identified need is much greater today than it was 3 or 4 years ago. But I didn't know what I was creating then. We just created that service. And now 3 years later, I realize like what it actually is. And that like, that's kind of the inception of how that model really started, at least for us. Mm-hmm. And so that's what kind of got us into retainer work. I kind of realized, okay, look, this creates sustainability. I'm seeing the direct value and impact that this work is having on these clients. Like there's no reason we can't scale this and do this for, a handful of other businesses in Des Moines. So.
Sure. Well, it's an interesting thing. If people are listening, they don't like understand the scale and scope of like video production. Like when I worked in the agency world, we were in like on the bell curve of like cost and impact. Like we were on the very tippy top of like, we weren't touching a project unless it was like 50 grand or more. And it's like, but you're also working with the largest brands. You have the most expensive equipment, over $2 million worth of camera equipment in a studio and like all the stuff. But then there's like everyone below that that's like 99% of most businesses that still need content. So there's like all these other, you can do one-off projects, but then there's this model that you're mentioning, like kind of the retainer model where it's like monthly recurring services. But tell me about how that model has changed your guys, like you said, the sustainability, the predictability, and then also like scaling up your team as things have come, because there's more, I wouldn't say guarantees, but like you can forecast a little bit better than somebody that just does one-off projects.
Exactly. That's why I liked it from day one, because I'm like, dude, this is just like, we know exactly what's going to come in and we can make really reasonable decisions based off of this. We could start paying ourselves after one client. I mean, if we really wanted to. We've been pretty good over the years, probably to lean too much as investing back in the business and not paying ourselves enough. But that's what that model has allowed us to do, because we can forecast that, like, we know we'll probably make X amount this year in retainer revenue.
Sure. Do you guys still do one-offs as well, or do you just only do retainers?
Nope. We still do one-offs. We're probably about 75, 80% retainer work today and 20% one-off. But to be honest, like half of that one-off work is coming from our retainer clients. Sure. So it kind of leads to those projects. The model's been interesting to scale. It's not easy to scale, and we're kind of at a fun point in business right now where we have a great client base, and so figuring out how to maximize and allocate time for our current team, and then how do we scale that from our current team into more people and more clients. So understanding what is the threshold of one videographer and one social media strategist to how many clients can they reasonably manage and do a really, really good job at managing, not just being overburdened with an endless flow of work. So, I don't know. It's been tough. It's been good, but now it's just kind of trying to figure out how do we allocate that? And, do we want to scale to more clients? Honestly, I'm not sure we really are looking to be, an agency running 25 clients, as much as I'd rather run 10 really, really strong clients and just knock it out of the park.
Sure.
We want people to know when they see a client like, oh man, I'm wondering if TH Media has something to do with that, because it's just that good and the work's that quality and that creative.
Sure. Well, it's really interesting to compare and contrast, because I mean, we hire a lot of contractors that just do one-off projects, but it's the constant feast and famine debacle. It's like, some months you're making more than you made last year. And then some months you're like on the corner spinning a little arrow like, hey,
exactly.
Like you said, I'm doing data entry just to pay my bills type of thing. How has that been for your guys' creativity, like as a company? Because I know sometimes if you're just shooting with the same people, you can kind of get dried out on the creativity side. How have you guys kept it fresh that way?
Yeah. By bringing on contractors. When we hired our first videographer, we're like, oh, you're going to do social content, so all our social content, you're going to do all our one-off projects. I think after 2 months, we realized like, that's just not feasible. We're not getting the level of output, the level of creativity that we want with each project, because we're requiring too much in too many different areas. So now Danielle, who's full-time with us, like her sole job is social content, and that's all she focuses on. Now our one-off projects, Joe spearheads pretty much all of those, but we build a team of contractors around that. We are really looking at hiring an in-house videographer that can just dedicate their time to those one-off projects, because we've seen a more steady flow of those to be able to make a reasonable decision that it might make sense to hire somebody. But I feel like that's kind of how we make sure creativity is put where it needs to. Let's have you're staying in your lane, and let's not really take you out of that. Let's make sure you're thriving where you need to be.
Sure. So it was you and Joe to start. So you're more the sales client management stuff. He's more the creative director, running the camera, that type of stuff. At what point do you guys realize, okay, we have too many clients. We need, like, Joe's overwhelmed. We need help. Like, what was that first hire like for you guys?
Yeah, we just talked about this, because our first hire actually wasn't even a videographer, photographer, or content creator. We hired a graphic designer, believe it or not. Nicole is her name. She did graphic design work for us when we started locally. So she was designing these rat cards that we'd put in every one of our boxes. And then as we kind of started bringing on more marketing clients, and some of them had graphic design needs, I'd flow them to Nicole. And about after a year, she's like, look, guys, you either got to hire me full time or I can't do anything for you anymore. And she was a wicked good designer, but she was just we meshed so well. And you can never overlook that as a business owner. Culture is everything. And so we're like, look, let's just hire her. Like at that time, what probably would have made sense was to hire a videographer, but we were young, dumb, and didn't know what we were doing. So we're like, oh, we're going to hire Nicole.
Hey,
Exactly.
Nicole, you ever used a camera before?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so we hired her as just hired her. I think we called her like a content specialist, something. And then we're like, we're going to teach her how to do video. So we had her do video. It took her like 3 weeks to edit this recap video that was like, I love you, Nicole, but it was pretty shitty. We're like, yeah, that's just not going to happen. So Joe continued to do all that work. So Nicole came on board in 2022. So about 2 years after we officially like formed our LLC. And then in 2023, we hired another full-timer, and then in 2024 we hired 2 more. So it's just kind of scaled naturally as our business has. But now today we're a little bit better and more strategic about who we hire and why we hire. So we've learned. We've made our fair share of mistakes.
Sure. Well, and I guess in that I have quite more questions about that later on. But I would say in kind of that scope of scaling up, like what's kind of not the flow of it, but what's the division of labor so you guys know the lines in the sand? Because when you get more cooks in the kitchen, if you got some people shooting, some editing, like who's in charge of what projects, like how do you guys kind of manage all the inner workings of the company?
It's a great question, and we're working. I'll answer it, but the short answer is we're working through that actually right now. We've started this program called EOS, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's a tried and true system. I'm sure you've maybe read the book Traction, or someone has given it to you.
Great book.
But we actually hired a coach. So we're full-time implementing this now. We tried to self-implement 2 years ago. It just wasn't the right time. And also like, don't try to self-implement because it's just not going to work. So we hired a coach. And so over the last 3 months, we've been working on the business and not in the business. And to be honest, I think this is the first time in the 4.5 years we've been doing this that we've actually spent time doing that. And it's been incredible and life-changing, and it's gonna set our business up for success long term. And honestly, if we didn't do it, I feel like who knows where we would be a year or two from now. So that's it's been helping us identify that. But at least the flow of work, usually client comes to me, I take them from lead through the sales process, and they become a client. Usually there's a meeting or two where I'm in with them and Joe or Nicole just to get their feet wet, make sure everybody's introduced to each other. And then the projects go on from there. If it's on the content and social side of things, I bring Joe in, and then Olivia, who is our social media strategist, and she's made more or less the point of contact for all these clients. And so she gets in with them, and then between her, the client, and myself, we kind of work through every month content strategy, and we put together basically a strategy document. It's handed off to Danielle or Joe, whoever's doing the shooting, and then they go out and shoot it, and then do the editing and pass it back to Olivia to actually manage the distribution through our syndication platform. So
sure, that's really cool. And I know like there's similarities and differences from how we run things as well, but there's so much that you just kind of learn on the fly as well. Like you guys probably just did content, and then they're like, well, we don't know how to post it. Can you guys like just manage everything?
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess we'll figure that out.
Exactly.
Like you said, you're like, Joe, can we do that? Yeah. We can do it. We can figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
At what point did you guys draw the line of if someone starts asking about this medium that you're like, okay, this is the official place, we just like, we don't go there? Is there anything that you've had to say no to yet?
Not really. I feel like there is some things, but I feel like it was almost the opposite. Like, they kept asking us if we could do it, and I kept telling them no. And then I was like, fine, like we're going to figure this out and do it. So about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we started doing web development. And Nicole has been leading the charge on that. She's our design lead today. She does all things graphic and web design. So she learned how to use and build websites in Webflow. And so we build service, or not exclusively service-based, but we build content-rich websites for local business now in Central Iowa. A lot of it are current clients, right? We're not really actively going after website business, but we had enough interest from current clients that it just naturally was like, okay, we're going to do this now. So I think that's a great question, because I think I need to be better about saying, no, we don't do that. But we've figured, like this year, you mentioned 360. We had a client come to us and she's like, well, we really want to do 360 virtual tours as part of our marketing strategy in 2025. Do you guys do that? And at that point, usually in the past, I was like, yeah, we do that, even though I know we had never done that. This time I was like, look, I've never done this before, but I'm willing to look into this. And so Joe and I did a bunch of research, kind of had conversations with other companies that have been doing this. And we're like, I think we can accomplish this. And also, you're a great client. We love working with you. So we're going to invest some time, energy, and resources into learning this service. And so, yeah, we just started doing it then. And now it's a great product, and we're really proud of it, which I think that's something I've learned over time is we can pretty much figure out anything and how to do anything with a camera. I mean, that's Joe's MO. I mean, you put a camera in front of him and you ask him to do something, like, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind Joe can accomplish that. But there's definitely been other services now that, yeah, probably can't do that, or kind of outside of our scale or scope of what my team's capable of. Like, I'm going to hand you off to somebody that I know can take better care of you and do a better job. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does.
It's the long answer of saying I don't really say no, and I need to.
Sure. Well, and I've gotten to the point where, I mean, saying no is really powerful, but also not just saying no, piss off, figure it out on your own, like giving them something else they can go with. Because I think that's the big risk that you run in this business is, like, if someone reaches out and they want like a wedding done, you guys don't do weddings. Like, instead of saying, no, we don't do that, and that's it, you can be like, no, we don't, but here's 3 people that we really recommend.
Yeah.
Because then they still think highly of you because you helped them solve their problem, even though you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really try to do, is like have contractor partners or people that I know in any vertical of marketing. Because I can be like, okay, we don't do copywriting, but I know a really good copywriter, or weddings, or, oh, you need this done, or whatever. Like, you can kind of refer out. But another thing that I've done is, like, we'll still manage the project if it's like reasonable, and then we'll just bring in the contract partners, oversee the project.
Same.
There's only been a couple times where that's blown up in my face. Last year specifically, I won't give too many details in case the client's listening, but we had an out of town shoot that they didn't want us to travel for. So I had to hire local talent or local crew to film it. And their audio was all screwed up. It was for a corporate event. And oh my gosh, I was like livid because I'm like, I should have just flown out there. It was during a snowstorm too. So like clients were going to go there. They got stuck in the airport. It was this whole disaster. And I'm like, at least if I was like Joe, I'm like, at least if someone's there that's like problem solver, creative director can fix this.
Yes.
But instead you were like relying on people that you don't really know because you've never worked with them before.
Right.
What's been that experience for you guys with bringing in contractors, but then also knowing that your name's on the invoices and you have to own this, even though you have no control over it yourself?
We're probably more type A than we should be. We like to control stuff, but we care about quality, and one of our core values is valuing or understanding the value of reputation, and that's huge to us. Like when our name's behind something, like we got to make sure we're going to stand behind that. You know, if we're telling you we're going to get it done by a certain date, my team's going to get it done, and you know, if that means we got to stay up till the middle of the night, we're going to do that because we value that. We value that, and we value that relationship. So, it's we've been lucky, I would say, with some of the contractors that we've been able to develop relationships with, that we just fully trust them. And more times than not, if it's a project we're bringing a contractor on, Joe will be there because I know Joe's going to be able to manage quality flow and just get stuff done the way we know it gets done. Like, we would never send like that example. I don't think I would ever trust sending another crew that I didn't have somebody from my own crew there as well.
Sure.
Because I can't guarantee quality. We're just trusting that, you know, they say they can do what we need them to do.
Sure. And that's always the hard thing. In this case, it was live event, so you can't redo it. Like, worst case scenario, like, I'll fly out there on my own dime and film it and fix it, but it's like, I can't redo the event. Like, no. Damn it. Like, oh my gosh, like what a stressful time. So I totally get it. One of the other pieces though that I want to kind of mention too is, like, you guys you said you've only 5 years into this, which is pretty remarkable, the scale that you guys have grown at, which congrats on that.
Thank you.
The big piece that I think is interesting is that you guys recently purchased a building to put your business in. So talk me through that journey. I think we've talked a lot about real estate in a couple episodes on, like, when's the right time to buy a building, but I'd love to hear your guys' experience with it and what brought you to that conclusion.
Yeah, for sure. We just kind of have naturally moved spaces as our business has needed to. This is the building we're in today, which, cross our fingers, will be in it forever. Is our 4th space since we started. So
how many square feet in this new one?
So this one's 3,200 square foot on our main level. And then the reason we bought it and moved into it is there's 3,200 square foot in the basement.
Oh, nice.
And it's 9-foot ceilings, and it is wide open. So we basically just created a modular production studio down there. So in 2020, when we first started, Jordan Ello, who I mentioned, has the co-packing facility. He gave us space in his attic in the old Dolls in Ankeny,
Oh my gosh.
literally in the wires, crazy, just full of dust. And he's like, sweep my floors and you can go up there. So that's where we started. And then Justin, who I've mentioned, did some freelance work for, data entry. He had an office and it was called the Market Building in the East Village. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's just to the south of Climb, Iowa, where Peachtree used to be, kind of the train tracks. Twisted Vine is in the building right next to it now, but it was kind of like this co-working kind of building, but everybody closed their own door and locked their own doors at night. So it wasn't like there's open desks floating. $350 a month for us to get an office there. No long-term, it was month to month. Didn't pay for anything. Internet was the only thing we paid for. So it cost me like $375 because everybody in that building just shared internet.
Sure.
So super low risk for us to do that, but we needed to get out of Jordan's warehouse. Like that wasn't going to be sustainable. So we moved into
take some client meetings up there with the rats running around.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of, honestly, we did. I'm pretty sure we took one of them up there. I was like, yeah, Joe, we're going to do something. We got to move. So it was 350 square feet, 350 square feet and $350 a month. And then a year after that, right next door, the door next door and within the building was open, and it was 750 square feet. And it was, there was 2 offices on the front end, and then the back half, it was probably like a 20 foot by 20 foot, just open area that we turned into a little studio then with a backdrop. That was pretty much all we could fit in there, but it was awesome. I mean, we had room to play. That cost me $750 a month. So just super cheap. That Market Building was awesome. It's so hard to find something like that. It's not going to be there forever. I don't even know if it still is today, which is why we moved, because construction got to be a nightmare. Another developer bought it, super great guy, but he has bigger aspirations with what he wants to do with it. Mm-hmm. So we started looking, didn't really know like what we wanted, but we knew we wanted our own space, something we could grow into, something we could build a team, something we could build a dedicated production studio. So we probably looked for 4 months, probably all types of buildings that you could imagine, but most of them were office. And you could find office anywhere, but like having office with studio space was really hard to find, and something that was like semi-affordable without, and then, by the time you put a bunch of money into it, let's say you don't own it, like it's not really doing much for you, in my opinion.
Sure.
So then this building popped up. We went and looked at it. I drove by the sign on Memorial Day. They had just put the sign out. They hadn't listed it yet. I sent a picture to our real estate agent, and I was like, we need to look at this because I like the area. I didn't know anything about the building, walked into it, and it was like, yeah, this is awesome. We realized that, it's a big risk. We didn't really understand, the financial kind of aspect to it fully at that point. But something Joe and I have done from day one and agreed to is, look, we're going to put everything back in the business because we know at some point we want the opportunity to kind of invest in something, whether that's real estate or people, whatever. I don't really know, but we just want to be able to have that opportunity. So the stars aligned. We both really loved the space, kind of saw the vision and knew that we could make something really special out of it. And again, it's too big for us right now, but we're going to grow into that, and we know what we need to do that. And so we just said, screw it, let's do this. Like, this is what we've saved for. Like, why just keep putting money in the bank account when, like, let's put it into something that is going to help us. And so we did it, and it's been incredible. It's awesome having your own space and having actually space in your own space versus just feeling crammed. Mm-hmm. We can bring clients in. We have a great conference room. We do meetings in, space for our team to get creative. We rent a couple desks right now until we need to kick those people out and put our own team members in there. So it's been awesome.
Sure. What was the use of the building before you guys took it over?
It was a property management company, I think.
Okay. So like offices and that type of thing?
Yeah, it was wide open. We put in 6 offices. And the Market Building has no windows, and neither did our attic office that we started. So when we got this place, we're like, we're going to build offices, but like we need to keep as much natural light in here, because we'd leave work and be like, this is depressing. Like I didn't even know it was dark out, or like I didn't even know it was raining. So we put all glass offices in because we're like, it's expensive, but like we care about light just based on our previous experiences. So we put in 6 offices, and then put in a couple other things throughout the building that's mainly just for design and kind of our own liking, if you will. But then downstairs, they had some cabinets, and they had a bunch of doors they probably had like 40 doors down there because they were a property management company. I was like, yeah, we got to get rid of these doors. Like we don't need these. And Joe and his dad built a cyc wall, which I'm sure you know what a cyc wall is. Took them like 3 months, but those guys could probably be engineers if they wanted to after building that thing.
They're really hard to build.
And so we worked with this company in Texas I wish I knew the name. Their whole business is manufacturing curved wood, and they ship it to you. So we sent them the specs of our corner where we put the cyc wall, and they sent us back plans and shipped us a bunch of curved wood. And so that's the easy part. The hard part is actually installing it, bending drywall, making it look clean, making it actually look infinite, which is what the point of a cyc wall is, and painting things like that. So that's probably the coolest thing that we have down there right now. And we just did a production on it yesterday, and it's a huge asset. I mean, it probably cost us like $2,000 to build, which is super cheap.
Sure. You could rent it for that in a day if you really wanted to. So,
that doesn't include Joe and his dad's cost. Those guys deserve way more than $2,000 for the work they put into that. But I mean, there's a lot of companies in town that I'm sure have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building a cyc wall, like a true cyc wall.
Oh, sure.
So it's been fun to have, and it's a good asset, and our clients love it. And we've seen interest from like other production companies or creators. We've just done a horrible job of marketing it. So maybe at some point we'll try to grow that. But
sure. Well, and I used to work in the production world. We had the biggest cyc in town, and they could fit like a combine in there and all this crazy stuff. And
Applied Arts cyc wall is incredible.
Yeah, and it's like the room was like different angles, so the noise just goes in the cinder block slits and dies. It's like engineering feat. It's super cool to see. But yeah, and same thing. I was like, you realize like we could rent every day. This could be rented out like all the time. But it was like, it was like you got to know somebody to know somebody type of thing. Right. But people need it for everything. You know,
that was kind of our vision when we got that building too. We're like, and I still think this matters to us. Like, we want our space to be a space for just like the creative world in Des Moines. Like, if there's people like you or just other production companies, like, I don't really care. Like, if people can get creative here, like, that's what we want. We don't need all this space. We maybe use our studio 5 days a month. Like, somebody else come use it, please.
Sure.
And like, we give it for free, probably way too much, because we just want people to use it. So that was kind of our vision with the space and what we wanted. We've realized, we want to grow our team into this space. So I'm not sure that's as much as what we want, but we still, our door's open to people that, you need a place to work, come hang out, come work. You want a studio to go shoot your own content or do something for a client, like, go use it. It's for you.
Sure.
So
no, I love it. We'll take a break from the hard stuff.
Yes.
For a little fun lightning round.
Love it.
Have not briefed you on these questions.
Right.
Most of these are pretty PG. Some of these other ones I've randomly just like, depends on the day. I'm like, I'm throwing some complete curveballs in here. This one's a little more easy for you. So I'm going to ask, I guess the first thing, are you a big foodie? Yes. You mentioned the deli and the Waveland Cafe, which is right there. The other day I was in the area and I saw your guys building and I was like, oh my gosh. So then I went to Waveland. I was happy I did though.
Yep.
Monte Cristo is fantastic there. So I was going to ask you, what is your favorite restaurant for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? So three different suggestions here. And if the restaurant is not listed that someone's listening to, there's a lot of options in Des Moines. So nobody crucify this man for picking something.
I have to be somewhat biased on my answers, but I'll give background. But breakfast, Waveland, that's totally unbiased. I've always loved Waveland. That's my style of food. I don't really need, I like high-end food, but that's not something I'm always going to go after. So Waveland, you can get just a really good breakfast at a really great price, and their coffee's phenomenal.
Doesn't Jason Momoa's family own it?
I don't know if they own it, but he has a meal there.
Okay.
Like, it's named after him.
Okay.
And they take pictures of him eating there all the time. So there's some connection.
My wife told me his family owns it because he'll come back and won't tell anyone, and then like
show up.
Yeah, it'll just be people there having coffee, and you look over like, holy shit, it's Aquaman. It's like, whoa, how cool is that? So
exactly. Lunch. So my brother owns Charlotte's Kitchen. It's a fried chicken restaurant in town. So shameless plug, but I'll give him that one.
Sure. And they have their locations in Johnston, right?
Johnston, Indianola, and then he opened Altoona this year. So he's on his third. He'll open his fourth. Hopefully, at least know where it's going to be this year. He's crazy. He's doing way too much, but he's doing good things. So Charlotte's Kitchen, I do love their food. But if I'm not going to Charlotte's Kitchen for lunch, I'm probably going to like Manhattan Deli, which, I mean, I said Maccabee's, but I'm a big deli fan. So that's probably my go-to lunch spot. Dinner, the wife and I, we love going to Simon's, which I feel like if you've been in Des Moines, most people love that. And
Great
then,
place. How do you beat the rush? Do you have a secret on how do you actually get a table without waiting out in the cold for 3 hours?
You don't beat the rush, you embrace the rush.
Okay.
It's just, you're going to have to sit there for a while. And he has the room now. I don't know how long it's been. I don't know if you've been there.
Like 2 years since I've been there, I think.
Okay,
we have 2 under 2. So they're,
yes,
ever since the kids have been born, like we can't justify hiring a nanny and sitting out in the cold for 3 hours.
You're 100% right.
I'm like, I'd rather just eat and then come home at
exactly.
that time.
We, with the week my wife had our daughter, we went to Simon's and that was our last meal. And then we literally didn't go there for a year until we got a babysitter. So 100% get it. But he has a little like lounge now at the end of that building where you can get a drink, go there and sit, and then he'll tell you when your table's ready. So that's helped. I'm trying to think what our other dinner spot is. This is going to might sound weird, but El Mariachi.
Okay.
I don't know if you're a Mexican food fan.
Oh yeah.
It's in Johnston off Morlaix. It's the best Mexican in Des Moines.
Sure.
That sounds crazy, but El Mariachi is awesome. My in today's world, a good meal that's not super expensive goes a long way. My family of 3 can get out of there for $26.
No way.
So,
oh man, the last time my wife and I went, we have a 2.5-year-old son who doesn't really eat much. And then our 1-year-old daughter just got 3 teeth and now she's like eating anything and everything. We can't get out of a Mexican restaurant for like under $80.
Oh man. Well, we don't drink.
We got to the point we stopped getting a drink because we're
exactly.
like, okay, that doubles our bill. Like the drinks are like an extra $30
exactly.
or whatever.
I just tell my wife, like, I'm going to drink a beer at home. I don't need to spend $5 to drink a beer here.
Sure.
So, and she drinks Diet Coke. She's never drank. So that helps me.
Sure. Well, it keeps your bill low.
Exactly. So, and then the other place we love, and I know this is too many answers, but Angry Goldfish. You ever been there?
Mm-mm.
It's on the south side. It's kind of like a bar, but they have phenomenal food, great service, and again, it's pretty affordable. So
sure. I know you mentioned like exceptionally low cost. I was at a client meeting. This was like 6 years ago in Grinnell, and there's like a little cafe across from the college there. And I was meeting with this guy. I'm like, oh no, I got your bill, whatever, and thought I was doing some great justice. Though, like between the two of us, it was like $10.
Yep.
Like it was dirt cheap. I'm like, well, now I feel like an idiot. Cause like I was like, yeah, sure, take the bill, like whatever. I'm like, oh, I got it. Like it's $20. I'm like, okay, sweet. Like I just pull this out of my seat cushion.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so you do most of your guys' clients are based here in Des Moines area, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the furthest you or someone on your team has traveled to do a shoot for a client?
We actually have a client now in Wilmington, Ohio, which is probably our farthest. So, which is about a 9-hour drive, 10-hour drive.
So do you guys have to drive it every month to go up and get content, or do you batch record for like 3 days? So you have enough?
It's actually a different, they don't fit in the realm of kind of our content plus social service. They're more of, I would consider them a one-off, but they're not really a one-off. So we're really working with them on marketing strategy. And we also are kind of diving, it's more of like an agency style project, if you will. So there's marketing strategy, there's paid media, there's a bunch of branding work that's going on to it. So we're supporting them through kind of a brand launch that's going to be happening this year.
Okay.
So they're the furthest, at least the furthest for like our content plus social service. I don't do anybody for that outside of 30 miles from Des Moines.
Sure.
It's hard to make the numbers work because if you get 30 miles outside of Des Moines, you're at least an hour and a half of travel. And it's just too hard. It doesn't work for our process.
Sure.
So
that makes sense. I know one of my retainers is a gym chain in Oklahoma and Arkansas. So we'll do quarterly productions. Like I have one in February. So we're doing all the pre-pro for that today and getting like content spreadsheets out. And then I'll fly out, shoot for 3 days and then come back. And that's like 3 to 6 months worth of content.
Yep.
And then we have a partner that does all the social posting. So I just produce. I'm the Joe in the situation, produce it all and then hand it off to the management side. But I feel like it really just, you have to kind of trial and error it to see what works. Cause in that case it does work. Cause I can commit to doing a 3-day production and then not go back for 6 months. Yeah. But if that was an every month type of thing, I couldn't do it. Like it's just too much.
Yeah, it makes sense. We kind of dabbled into that with this Wilmington project. We went out there last August just to really acclimate ourselves with their campus and their product as a college. But before I went, we kind of had some discussions and realized, maybe there's some opportunity for us to create some content while we're out here. And they had been, wanting to really increase their branding on social media. They haven't really done a ton of video, at least video that's focused on building your brand on social. And so I was like, well, we can work with you on that. So kind of like you, we spent 2 days and we filmed 24 videos and then every week for 3 months, we gave them two edited videos based on the plan. So it worked in that regard. And it made me think, maybe there is opportunity to kind of do something like this for people outside of Des Moines, but I'm probably not going to, at least at this point, go after that. If it comes to us, we can definitely have that conversation, but like we know our sweet spot is our 30 miles around where we are.
Sure. Well, and in that case for the Oklahoma client, like they had heard me speak at a conference about marketing at gyms specifically. And they're like, Ryan knows everything we need to do. Like we're just going to have him do it. Cause like we could hire someone else, but we're just going to take his plan and have them try to figure it out. Like just do it. I'm like, okay,
love it.
I'll figure it out. Like we'll fly out there, but not so much of a lightning round now. We're kind of just
back into it.
The slow lightning round. Speaking of dinner, if you could have dinner with anyone famous, like a famous person, dead or alive, who would you have dinner with?
That is a great question. Wow. I'm not sure I've ever thought about that, to be honest.
We could cut it in half. We'll say that they're still alive. Someone that's still living. That gives you half of the human population.
Yeah.
There's probably way more people that have been alive in the past, but
probably Tiger Woods.
Okay. Why?
That man he's one of the greatest competitors of all time. And at least when he was in his prime, like nothing could stop him. And I just want to know, like, what in the heck was your mindset every day? And I want to know what you focused on. He kind of like Kobe. I feel like, everybody knows kind of Kobe's work ethic. Like I want to know more about what Tiger did every day I'm a golfer. So I kind of understand the mental aspect of playing the game of golf and sitting over a golf ball, this little white ball, and thinking, how am I not going to shank this to the right? But then you add in the aspect of like millions of people having their eyes on you and you don't hit them, even though they're like, I'm right here and they're right there. Like it's that close. Mm-hmm. Your mental has to be so strong. And so I would love just to dig into that with them.
Sure. No, I'd love it. It's an interesting thing, like seeing people at the top of like how they got there. I think people are really odd to realize that they're very similar, but also very different in the same way. Yeah. If that makes sense. Here's the random one. We said something random. Here's the Buffalo. What year did Abraham Lincoln get assassinated?
Oh my gosh. I wish my dad was here because he's like the biggest Abraham Lincoln buff of all time. He's going to be mad when I get this wrong.
Just on a ballpark, like how long ago do you think it was? Was it 50 years, 100 years, 5 million years?
No,
how
100
long?
years.
100 years ago?
Yeah.
So that'd be
like 1924
or
25, yeah. Am I close?
Not even close.
Jeez.
1865.
Yeah, my dad's going to kill me.
Sure. I'm weird. I remember timelines of like what was going on. Like I think of fashion. It's really weird. Like you think 80s, I immediately think like crazy hair, like men wearing women's pants, whatever. Like you think 20s, I got the flappers with the hats and everyone's wearing a suit going, hey, how you doing? Yes. They're a transatlantic accent. Like then I think like 1850s or 60s, it's like Abe Lincoln getting his head rearranged in the theater. That's like how my brain works. So now we know. 1865.
Sorry, Dad.
And apparently when I was looking it up, he had a bodyguard there, but the dude went down to watch the show and he got bored and he went to the saloon across the street and was drinking.
What's crazy? Oh my gosh. Well, what's crazy is my dad grew up in DC. So I've been to DC probably like 24 times because his parents still lived out there and his sister does today. So I've been to that Abe Lincoln Museum probably 6 times. So I should know the answer to that question.
Sure. Yeah. I'm like, he's the Secret Service dude that wasn't even Secret Service dude. Like the only people worse than that are the dudes that almost got Trump assassinated a couple months ago. It's like, just don't be like the guy that went to the bar and forgot his job for 6 hours. Like what an idiot. So, okay. Well, you've passed the gauntlet here of the lightning round. Only missed the one question. That was an actual question. Yeah. So, I think a question before I go on, I know you had mentioned like your family was like a family of business owners, entrepreneurs. Like what were your parents, siblings doing? You mentioned your brother to Charlotte's Kitchen. Like what's that dynamic of the family like? And what was it like growing up with that?
Yeah. And none of my family was like these prominent business owners or prominent entrepreneurs. Like I couldn't say the name of their business and like people like, oh, what? Your family had that? My grandfather on my mom's side started Noble Photography. And he, over time, he sold it in like, I want to say 2005 around there to Life Touch, which is this nationwide.
They do all the school pictures. Yeah.
And so he built a school picture business and he owned pretty much the western half of the state of Iowa. Just a phenomenal business, super hard worker. So he and my mom worked for him. So he he took a lot from him. On my dad's side, my grandma was a real estate agent in Washington, D.C. His dad also dabbled in entrepreneurship. But then my dad he opened his own financial advising practice. And so there's a lot of entrepreneurship that goes into that. But then I'd say the most of where I get probably my bug from is my brother, because he started a company called Des Moines Caddy Co. or something like that. We both worked at a golf course, and he was like, well, I'm going to like caddy for all these rich people. And so he started Des Moines Caddy Co. And then when he went to college, he started cutting hair in his dorm room to make $15. And then that's when he started Deadeye Barbecue with a buddy of his in college, grew that, sold it, and then ended up owning or starting Charlotte's Kitchen. And so I mean, honestly, like that's all I really knew is because like it's what my brother was doing. And I took one internship in college at Renewable Energy Group, which is a fantastic company. They're huge, but in a great experience. But I just realized like sitting at a desk working for somebody else, like I hate this. This is horrible. I want to go do something on my own and at least try. If I fail, like I'm 25 years old, like we'll figure it out.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's kind of the family influence. And then, like I said, kind of earlier, like my parents are just ultra supportive. Like they'll do anything they can to make sure that we succeed and do what we want to do. So
sure. That's awesome to hear. Yeah. It's always interesting talking to people because, I shouldn't say none. Very few of my family members do like business ownership or whatever, but I think it's not necessarily like a predetermined thing of like, oh, they do it, I should do it, whatever. Like, it's kind of the Manning family situation where like there's the one brother that never made it to the NFL. It's like
exactly.
Apparently he was a really good receiver and messed his leg up, but it's like it doesn't have to be that way. You can do what you want to do, which is kind of cool.
And then you realize too, once you start actually becoming a business owner, you just start getting around other business owners, and then it's like, okay, you're good now because you got other people around you that are just as dumb as you to own and run a business. So.
Sure. When I've talked to so many people since I started this podcast, you're episode 71, and everyone's like, how do you know like over 70 business owners? I'm like, because I talk to these people all the time, like
exactly.
Just in work, and I'm around, and I'm also one, so I'm interested. I'm like I would have these conversations regardless. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to learn from each other. And once you figure out like you said, rising tide raises all ships. Like we can all learn and evolve, and
exactly.
Like there could be something you're doing with hiring that could help me, or there's something I'm doing with processes or systems that could help you. Like everyone can learn. So super important there. What do you think? You've been doing this 5 years now. There's all the things that people know in the public and what we've talked about today, but what's been the hardest part of this journey for you personally in the last 5 years?
It's a great question. It's almost like aside from like running a business, it's kind of understanding the effect that like your business life has on your personal life. I mean, I have a phenomenal wife. We are high school sweethearts, and like without her support, like I could never do this, but like I'm always wanting to know, like, am I doing enough for her? Like, am I providing for my family? Like, is this the life that she wants? Like, so that's been like the hardest part to figure out through it all, but you have a great partner, you have someone that supports you, like the rest is history. So that's part of it that I would say. I mean, speaking strictly to a business sense, growing a team has been by far the hardest thing. I mean, we've hired and lost people, and, by the time you calculate all that payroll and the tax that you pay against that and just the energy, I mean, you're like that, I gotta figure this out. And so finding the right culture fits, finding the right talent, and putting the right people on the right seats at things that they actually excel at. That has by far been the most challenging thing, because it's not like, I mean, running a marketing agency is not like, running a restaurant. I compare our business to my brother's a lot. Like, he knows he needs a line cook. He knows he needs someone on the fryer, and that's all they're going to do. I mean, in our world, we can kind of say some of that, but there's so much gray that you just have to figure out along the way. So growing a team has been by far the hardest. What
have been some of the team building stuff? Everyone I've talked to, that's a huge sticking point, because a lot of people just want to do the thing.
Yeah.
But you start a business, and then you have to teach other people how to do the thing and manage the people.
Yeah.
And then you're not doing the thing anymore. What's been some of the things that you've noticed through the hiring, the firing, people leaving, learning the hard way with employees? What have been the things that you've learned that you absolutely need from a team member to be a good fit that's going to stick around for the long term?
Yeah, they have to match culture before before you even look at skill, honestly. Like, if you're not going to get along with them and they don't align with your core values, and we've realized now, like, we have 5 core values, and if we hire somebody, they are going to be a plus on all of those. because we just know that's where we have to start.
Sure. What are your core values? Going to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, good question. And I should know these.
You're in the middle of your traction to implementation. You're like, damn it, I don't have a cheat sheet.
I think I can do this. We've got reliability, positive can-do attitude, understands the value of reputation. Now I'm going to get stunk. There's 2 more.
I can pull your website up. I'm sure it's on the website.
They are. They're on the hiring position right now. So
nice.
Yeah, there's 2 more. Honestly, I should know those. So I'm going to forgive me for this one. That's everybody that's watching this.
That's all right. You're in the middle of implementing it. We'll give you a pass.
But yeah, so making sure that, we're going to put them through some of the tests to see if they can align with those. And then you obviously look at skill. We've realized too, our first hire or two, we had to train everything. And at that point too, like financially, we knew we had to kind of go for somebody that wasn't going to be as expensive, and we had to train. But now I think we're at the point where we'd much rather hire somebody that, within a month, we can be pretty confident that they know exactly what they need to do, at least from our process standpoint.
But you're not teaching them like, here's the mouse, here's how you move it in Premiere, and you click with the right, and here it's like, you don't have the time to do that. And by the time you train that person up in 6 months, they're like, okay, I'm leaving college now, or I'm leaving high school. I'm going to go elsewhere. And you're like, please give me all my time back that I gave you,
Exactly. And so as long as they match the core value fit and they look good on paper, and we usually, at least from an editor standpoint and production person, we put them through a little test project before we hire them, just to make sure they actually can say what either their real shows and that actually was content that they produced and they didn't just pull it from somebody else. So we put them through a little bit of a test project, and then, I don't know, like once you've hired enough people, you have a pretty good idea when someone's like bullshitting you or if they're actually who they say they are.
Sure. So I've found this too, like, and I was one of these people, like, there are some people that interview very well. Like I always interview very well. I'm a well-spoken person. Like I'm a people person. There's been plenty of interviews where I'm in there. I'm like, they're probably going to make me an offer and I probably should not get this job, but I'm just like good at interviewing. But then there's also people that are like really good for the job. They're just petrified to be in an interview. They feel the pressure and they blow it in the interview.
Yep.
What's been your experience with that?
Both.
Okay.
We've had people that have interviewed really well and started doing some work, and we're like, those things you said in your interview, like, don't really match up with what we're experiencing right now. But I don't think we've hired enough to have like too many experiences. We've also had a lot of great candidates that like, man, your skill set is like exactly what we need, but I would hate working with you every day. And at that point, it's like, yeah, we can't afford that. And I don't know, I'm sure you've had some experience hiring at this point, at least with contractors at the very minimal. I mean, our world, it's not like we have like 1,000 people that are looking for a video job. And, maybe there's 1,000 people that apply, but like there might be like 3 or 4 that are like actually good candidates from a skill set standpoint and not just being a straight weirdo standpoint too.
Sure.
So
yeah, in my situation, so we had an intern this summer, great person. I just know they're wanting to move to Colorado. So we were just kind of at that point, like, okay, like I don't want to keep you here, go do your thing.
Right.
But then the struggle that I keep finding is like, there's a lot of self-starters that are either coming right out of college or they're in their 20s. They're hustling, doing their thing, but they want to do what I do. And I know that if I bring them in and teach them everything, they're just going to go take it and start another shop down the street.
Yeah.
So it's the hard pill to swallow there. That's been my struggle personally.
Get it. And what I would say to that, I had that same fear, but nobody's going to build the relationships that I do. Nobody's going to understand. I mean, half those people are never going to know how to actually build a sustainable, profitable business. There's a lot of inner workings once you hire a team that you never realize. You've got HR, you've got payroll tax, you've got benefits. Like some people are wired to like, they're aspirational and they're hungry and they know how to use a camera and they might be able to sell somebody on a video project, but they could go be a one-man shop, but they're never going to build a team and they're never going to build a relationship. Like everything I do, like I can guarantee you no one will treat clients the way we do. And I'd never have fear that they're going to jump ship and go somewhere else because we're going to always treat them the way they deserve to be treated. And, if an employee wants to leave us and go after that client, they can try, but I'm not worried. So Sure.
Well, you can always put it in their employment contract, like a non-compete for a year or whatever. But But there's stuff like that where that's where I'm kind of at, where it's not fear-based, but it's like, again, it's just wasted energy and resource where I don't want to drop 6 months of my life into this person that's going to take the keys to the car and take it on a joyride, basically. Yep. Like, I don't, I'm teaching you how to drive, and then you're like, I hear the door slam at 3 a.m. and they're peeling out my driveway. I'm like, seriously? Like, you're going to run with it? So that's kind of my fear there.
Been there, done that. I think I've just realized, like, unfortunately, that's going to be a reality. I mean, you do everything. The other thing too is, like, it comes down to how do you treat your people. Like, if you treat them well enough, more times than not, they'll probably hang around with you. But then it's inevitable. You're going to run into situations like that. I mean, that's just, sadly, I would say that's it's a given from a business standpoint. I mean, that's how all these great businesses start. They work for somebody else and they're like, I could do that better, or I'll do it this way. And then I'm going to spin off and go do it.
Sure.
So
sure.
I don't know.
Well, it was interesting when I started at my agency. I worked there for 5 years at the production house, and they had told me the day I left, they're like, we knew you were going to do this, but we were going to roll the dice and
sounds like you're afraid of yourself, because you did the same thing at the agency you were at. You're afraid of someone doing the exact same thing that you did when you were there.
Yeah, but they weren't afraid of that. They still hired me. It was like, okay, like, they knew this was going to happen. But it's one of those things though, because, like, I feel like I left it in a better place.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is, like, I need to really think that way, because we had an intern this summer and he was doing great. Like, he was doing all the grunt editing for my interview stuff. I have my whole process documented, so he would go in and do it. I'd come and do an edit, and it's like, my select's already picked out, like, everything's color graded, the framing's done, the cameras are merged together. Like, that just saved me 2 hours. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
But then I want to get to the point where I don't even have to go in. I just, like, glance at it. I get the first review as if I were the client.
Exactly.
And now I get 4 hours of my day back, or 8 hours of my day back. And it's like, now I can go prospect new business, or I can go to networking events, or, like, do the stuff you're doing, like the sales stuff, because that's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I see a lot of similarities in you and I, because I have that same, like, if I had a team, that's what I would be doing, is all the sales, the client management, because that's what I'm really good at. I'm just really competent at the video stuff too. But most people are always surprised to hear that I'm, like, not the beanie wearing, coffee sipping, like, camera nerd. Like, I'm just not that person. Like, I'm not, but I'm competent enough to get it done. But I want to build a team and do it right. So
that's, like, the nature of our business too. And I feel like that's been some of the reason for our success is there's so many people that know how to use a camera, but in this business, there's very few people that understand how to sell. And you can build a great business in this industry if you know how to sell.
Yep. And
you don't have to have fancy gear to do that. I mean, honestly, for the first 2 years, we used, for the most part, we were using Joe's video equipment that he used to do vlogs in high school. But, like, we knew how to go get clients, and we knew how to use those cameras to still tell a good story. And so it comes back to sales at the end of the day, honestly.
Sure. So I've always been the anti-gear guy. Like, some of my friends are dropping like 30, 40 grand a year on new camera equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why?
I can't relate. We spent 15 grand this last year on camera equipment, because we realized we need to have 2 crews. We need to be able to have 2 crews running at the same time.
Yep.
And so we're like,
it's a bandwidth issue at that point.
Exactly. Yep. And to us, that was like a lot of money. Holy crap, $15,000. But we got a camera, we got a lens, we got a gimbal, we got a tripod, we got a new drone. Like, we just know exactly what we need to accomplish it, and we don't need spending. I couldn't fathom spending more than 15 grand, honestly.
Sure. So. Yeah. Each year, I think this year I spent like 6,000, but it was because I got a new drone, a new lens or 2, and then some other, like, minor things here and there. Most of mine, though, is just the software expenses. Like, things add up with that really quickly. But I'm actually doing a YouTube video that I was putting that together of, like, all the expenses I had this year, because I do a lot of YouTube, like, education for other freelancers as well. But I'm kind of the black sheep in that way, where I just don't spend money on gear because I don't need to.
Yeah.
But so many people, like, in production think they need, like, a red. Like,
yeah, right.
Okay, if you're in LA, that's probably the only way, if you just show up in LA, that you would ever get, like, a job, is like, hey, we needed someone with a red. We'll pay your camera operator day rate, but we need your camera. That's like 40 grand. It's like, okay, so then you have an in. But here, it's like, if you're going direct to client, then no one's ever asked me what camera I shoot with ever. I've been doing this for 8 years. No one's ever asked me, do you guys shoot on a Arri Alexa, or do you guys shoot on a red camera?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, oh, and then on the set, maybe they'll make a remark because they see the camera and they're like, oh, I have a Sony too, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, so do we.
Same
We have
exact.
7 Sonys.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's
It
a
is-
tool.
Yeah, exactly. Was same exact perspective. And I mean, I'm sure you get asked all the time too from people that are like, I want to be like a videographer, I have a video business. Like, what camera should I buy? My first answer is always go find a client. I don't care about what your camera, go find a client. Once you have the client, then go buy a camera.
Yeah.
If that's the situation that they're in. So
my come up story was a little different. Mine was like, I got a camera for $500 at Target because I worked there in the electronics area. And then that first year I went and made 10 grand with it and then used all that money to buy just a baseline camera and some other lights and stuff. And then I used that for like 3 years. And I'm just like piecemealing it together. Like I was using
it works.
a micro 4/3 camera that couldn't even do 4K. And then I'm like, oh crap, I should probably get 2 cameras that both do 4K. Like you just kind of just inch it up. But
Exactly.
I try to be really frugal with the camera gear because it's like most times people just buy it because it makes them feel good.
Exactly.
But I'm also like not the shopper in my family. My wife's the spender. I'm just like, why spend it on that? So.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of, I have a bunch of people I know that like, them holding a really fancy cinema camera is kind of like a businessman wearing a Rolex where, it's really cool, but like we just bought an R5C and that was the nicest camera we've ever bought. Mm-hmm. It's a good camera, but like, it's like a $4,000 or $5,000 camera. Like it's nothing like astronomically crazy. You could easily spend 20 grand on a camera tomorrow if I wanted to. So same perspective on gear.
No, I totally get it. Yeah. What's been like, I would say when you're talking to like other small business owners, what would you say is the biggest failures that you see them doing when it comes to their content marketing? So when people are reaching out to you and they're saying, hey, Nicholas, we're wanting to do some content, where do people fall down typically when you're talking to small business owners in the area? Well,
I'd say the first thing is they're not doing it. So like they're literally just not doing it. They know they need to, they've tried, but they're not doing it. And they also, a lot of the clients that we have at least typically don't have an in-house like marketing manager. We have a handful that do, but a lot of them don't. And so they just need somebody that's going to do it and do it a lot better than they ever would. The other thing is they don't have strategy. I've realized there's a lot of throwing content at the wall to see what sticks, and there's some merit to having that as part of your process. A lot of clients are just doing the gimmicky stuff because they're seeing other trends and other people do it, but does that really work for you? So a lot of people haven't taken the time to, what is your customer persona? Who are you really trying to reach? And let's go through, give me 30 days to just develop a content strategy for you. And I can guarantee your story is going to be told better than you ever thought it probably could. So I say those are the 2 things that I run into the most. It's like, hey, it's either 1, I have no time for this. Like, I can't do this. It's like, okay, well, we can help. Or 2, it's like, I've tried this, but like nothing's really working. It's like, well, what have you done or who have you worked with? And then let me show you at least what we do. Because, we can make sure you're going to creatively stand out, and the content's still going to be authentic. It's going to be relatable. It's going to be, on brand with your story, and it's going to relate to at the end of the day, your customer persona and whoever you're trying to reach with it. Because if it doesn't, then like, why are we making this? What's the point? I'm not just creating something to create it if it doesn't add value. You're paying me to do this. Yeah. And I want to make sure my value is there.
When I know for me, like that is similar where people reach out, but they think they know what they need.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of talk through the problem and I'm like, probably going to sound like a D-bag, but like, you don't need this. Yeah. Like, you don't even need what I do. It's like, what you really need is this, and we can help you with it, or you can go somewhere else. But like, from my educated opinion, you're not doing this or that. And I think that's lost me just as many projects as it's won me.
Yeah.
Because just being candid and frank with people, they're like, well, okay, he clearly isn't trying to just like hard sell me something. Like, this guy is just going to tell me how it is.
Honesty goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think it helps a lot.
We're overly honest too. So probably too honest sometimes. But again, I think I always tell people like it's in the best interest of the client. Like, I'm not just telling you this because I don't want to do it or I think it's dumb. Like, I honestly think this is in your best interest. Like, I might either tell you like we need to do something that's like maybe lesser value, like from a cost standpoint, or maybe you should look at spending like double what you have budgeted right now, because if that's really what you want, then this is what I think.
Sure. No, I love it. What's the hardest lesson you've had of being a boss and managing people? You mentioned this was a huge struggle for you as the company's grown.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest lesson you've learned through that?
I failed a lot as a boss. But I've realized early on, we were perspective, we're going to hire somebody and then like, we're never going to have to worry about it. You know, like we hired them to do the job, like they're just going to do it. Like, oh my gosh, like totally hands off. Well, how are you actually leading that person? Like, what are you investing back into them? And like, how are you helping them grow and get them to where they want to be? Maybe that's not at our company. I mean, that's conversations that I've had before, but I think that's been the hardest lesson is like, you can't just hire somebody and expect it just to fly without you being part, like in on the plane or a co-pilot. Like you have to lead that person to be the person that you want them to be and to help them get to where they want to be too. So I think that's been the hardest thing, and something that we're really trying to focus and double down on more this year is, you know, we want to invest back in our people. I want to be a true leader. I want to be a true manager. I don't want to, I think sometimes I put too much trust in our people, and I'm not saying I want to go micromanage them as much as I just, you know, I want to be a better leader to them. So.
Sure. That's great. I love it. Advice to 20 somethings that are looking to launch a creative business. If you went back college when you guys were trying to figure things out, like what advice would you give college Nick, knowing that you wanted to start a creative business?
Yeah. If you're on the fence, just do it. Like that's how every business starts. Like I could sit there and I sat there in my room for months, like, I'll do it then. Or I'm just like, no, you just got to go do it, get started. I would probably say, go create for free for a project or two, get that under your belt, and then use that to go sell. But learn the art of selling almost spend more time learning the art of selling than you are learning how to create. Because if you can sell somebody, then your business will be 10 times better than half the creative businesses out there.
Sure. No, I love it. Kind of pulling it all together here. We talked a lot about where you've been, but where do you guys want to go next 5 years? Like what's kind of the vision for TH Media?
Yeah. We've also talked a lot about this through EOS, and it was part of our last focus day. We didn't end up coming up with an answer to that question. But I think 5 years from now, and this is something we've always stayed true to, TH Media does not want to be the biggest marketing agency in town. We have no aspirations to do that. There are some phenomenal large marketing agencies in town, and there is a true need for that, and they do phenomenal work. But we want to be a small team that serves a really strong core, you know, strategic set of clients. And we want people to know TH Media is doing that work, that it's that good. They have that. That's got to be the TH Media strategy, the TH Media quality. Like that's TH Media's work. So it's not really picture perfect and crystal clear yet. But you know, 5 years from now, if people are saying that, then I feel like I'd be doing a good job. From a number standpoint, I guess we did talk a little bit about this. From now and then 5 years into the future, if our team can tell over 100 stories, we feel like we'd be doing good work. And we are doing good work because we have the ability to tell 100 stories. So if you break that down, that's 20 stories a year. Sure.
No, I love it. Nicholas, thank you so much for coming in, man. If people are hearing more about you and their local area business, where can they learn more about you guys?
Yeah, thmediacreates.com. It's the easiest place to find us. We're on all the socials. But yeah, our website, or you can come to our studio anytime, 4308 University Avenue in Des Moines, or someone's usually there from 9 to 5. So
sure. And you said also you're actively looking for some creative talent. So if you're listening,
yes,
and you're a video producer or somebody in the marketing world, I'm sure whenever this episode comes out a couple months from now, look them up. They're a growing company. They're looking for some people. So
absolutely. Would love that. Yeah. Content creator. If you're ambitious, you love your craft, you're reliable, you have a positive can-do attitude, and you understand the value reputation along with their other two core values that I can't remember right now.
They're on the website.
They're on the website.
I love that.
Come check us out. There's a good chance we'll have another opportunity coming. So
Sure. Well, thanks, man, for coming on. If you've made it this far in the show, make sure to give us a subscribe. If you're on YouTube, the goal this year is to hit 1,000 subscribers with the channel. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, check out all the clips on social media and make sure to follow Nicholas and TH Media on social media as well. My name is Ryan Snod, a Rhymes with the Odd, and you're listening to the Rhymes with the Odd podcast. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with the Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.